You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do our review for episode 15 of The Walking Dead. And why didn't Deanna take the casserole? At least have something to eat while you mourn your son. And very, very good song in the opening too. That was a really cool song. Sasha is going through some shit right now. And it was a very, very good episode. You know, the second half has been very, very good. And the first 3 episodes of the season, notwithstanding, much better than the first half. And it's funny, this season feels like it's really, really gone by so fast. I mean, which is amazing considering that me personally did not like episode 4 going forward in the first half of the season. But here we are. Episode 15 is come and gone, and we have episode 16 coming next week. This episode was really, really good. I mean, first of all, we saw this coming. We saw this coming with Glenn returning to Alexandria, with Deanna's son dead, and obviously there's issues going on in Alexandria, most notably with Jesse and Pete, and just a lot of stuff going on. And it's starting to tell me that they're building up to this interstellar war behind the walls of Alexandria between Rick's group and the people who live there, which quite frankly, if that were to happen, it would be a one-sided match. But the way things are turning out, Deanna is almost getting more and more convinced that what Father Gabriel told her is true. You know, very suspicious in her eyes that her son does not return. And, you know, at that moment, Rick is leading the way for not leading the way, but he's in a position of power, as is Michonne. And then suddenly Abraham becomes the leader of the construction crew. And we saw last episode, between that and what's going on here, she's starting to have her doubts. And then when she spoke to Rick in the graveyard, so to speak, you know, she could see, looking at him, that there's a much more extreme approach to things that Rick has than she does. However, because we have seen our group struggle for so long on the road, and even when they weren't on the road, struggle at the prison against the governor, then have to deal with Terminus, we know that Rick is right. I think the problem is that Rick is not taking the kind of... he should be taking a different approach. I think because these guys were out there for so long, some of them feel that there's really not much time before something happens, and they feel like they have to force the issue. And that might be true. You know, maybe that's so. I mean, you don't know. One minute things can be good, the next minute things can go haywire. But I think he needs to kind of take a different approach to delivering his message, and I think that's the fault of Rick right now. But it's not that he's wrong. We know he's not wrong. We've seen the group go through it. But Deanna has not. These people have not experienced that. So they can't appreciate where Rick is coming from. And when Rick tries to show them, it's so extreme that Rick looks like the bad guy. So Deanna is probably in a she probably feels very overwhelmed right now. Because on one hand, she knows that the whole group is not bad. She knows that they're a tight-knit group, so if 1 or 2 are going to get exiled, it could mean bad business for the rest of the group, whether they stay or not. So it's a lot of conflicting feelings probably going with Deanna right now. And I think part of that also is that she probably doesn't even really see Rick as necessarily a bad person. She just does not agree with his approach. So I thought that part of the show was very, very good. That almost like an inner conflict with certain, different characters. As far as Pete and Rick, obviously Rick is a little bit motivated more than just wanting to be the nice guy and do the right thing. Obviously, he sees something in Jesse. We get the idea that Jesse sees something in him, but I don't think it's on the same level right now because she's dealing with so many different things between her abusive husband, between her son, so I don't think... I think that hers is more, deep down, where Rick's feelings are more on the surface and he's showing it more. But nonetheless, she did want his help. And Rick did the right thing. He did the right thing. He said, let's go outside. He probably wanted to get Pete out of the environment, maybe have a talk with him, maybe put him to sit somewhere, have a coffee, sober up a little bit. But obviously, Pete is the one that got aggressive. All Rick was doing was defending himself. And you know what? A couple of times during that fight, if Rick wanted to kill him, he would have killed him. We've seen Rick in close quarters do what he has to do to kill somebody who's threatening him. So we know that even during that fight, as brutal as it was, Rick was restraining himself, still trying to do the right thing. I think the worst move he did there was not really get into a fight with Pete, but rather pull the gun out on people, and that's what really, really started to. That was, I think, is going to be the beginning of his downward spiral in terms of whether or not he's going to stay in Alexandria. And then we have Michonne knocking him out. Now, this is completely understandable because Michonne obviously doesn't want Rick to ruin it for everybody else. I'm sure it wasn't an easy decision to make for her, but I'm sure once she saw that he knocks Carl away, and he wasn't altogether there. He wasn't in his right state of mind, obviously, with his adrenaline and his testosterone fuming right now. And she wanted to pretty much put him down before he did something stupid, whether it be shoot somebody or whether it be just, continue to talk and make himself look more crazy. So it was a really, really good episode. And outside of that, all the other things. Now, the interesting thing I see here is the body they found on the tree. Okay, that Daryl and Aaron found on the tree. Obviously, this woman was alive and was not a walker when she got tied to that tree. She was eaten her insides were eaten up, and of course, when they show her face, there's the infamous W on her forehead. Now, there have been many, many speculations and theories regarding this W and the whole thing. Even some people going as far as saying that it could be Morgan and it's an upside down M or whatever. I don't think so. I really don't. I think that's not Morgan. We know Morgan wouldn't do that. So I think the Morgan theory is out. Obviously, it is another group of people who either have no place and are scouting Alexandria, or they're just crazy, wild people. My theory is that they're people scouting Alexandria, and that I think they're using and marking certain walkers to kind of, I don't know, maybe get a feel for what they're up against. I mean, they have to be watching. And it's funny how every now and then you get a surge of walkers going through the forest. And even Aaron said in this episode, there's more than there used to be. And I have a feeling these walkers are being sent by this group to get an idea of the defenses. Maybe while Alexandria and some of their people are distracted by these zombies, whether it's out on the field or whether they're being sniped by the tower, I think these people that are marking W's are watching. They're looking for a weakness. They're looking for where they can get hit from if they try to raid the wall. We've seen that these people are possibly involved with destroying another small town, which we saw when Noah, Tyrese, Rick, and Michonne went to that town, and eventually, obviously, Tyrese died, unfortunately. And then even in this episode, we saw that there's a lot of them, there's quite a few of them that had W's on their forehead. So are these the wolves, quote unquote? Whatever it is, I think that there's a group coming, and I think that is going to be what bands Alexandria together. I think that's going to be what mends all these wounds that have been surfacing since Rick and his group got there, with little things here like change of leadership, people dying because of dumb accidents, and getting to fights. Rick trying to stand up for what's right, even though he's doing it in his own self-interest, but he's still trying to do the right thing by helping Jesse. And I think that I think it's a 90-minute episode, because we're going to see in the early half of the episode the conflict between Rick and his group and Alexandria and their group. We're going to see it build up and then get resolved. And I think part of the resolution of that is this group, this W group, I think are going to make their move. And sometimes, there's that saying, we've all heard it. It's a very, very popular saying. They've used it in movies. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. So I think in this situation, you're going to get Rick and Alexandria and Rick's group. They're going to be, kind of going at it. Maybe not so bloody, but they'll be arguing. They'll be debating. Oh, well, you leave, blah, blah, blah. And right as this whole thing is happening, this group is going to attack, and Rick's group and Alexandria will have no choice but to band together to fight them back. Lives will be lost, but at the end of the day, I think the people of Alexandria, through that, will see the importance and the benefit of having Rick and his group around. And furthermore, Rick and his group will still be able to stay, and you know, they'll have to shore up defenses, and I just think they'll come to an understanding. And that's my theory. That's what it seems like it's setting up. Even though they're trying to focus on this whole interaction and this whole feud between the two groups, I think that's just a decoy for a bigger threat coming. And we're seeing hints of that bigger threat. We've been seeing it the whole second half, you know, towns destroyed, walkers marked, body parts spelling words and stuff like that. And we're going to see this group. And they're hiding them for a reason. We haven't even seen a hint of the actual person or an actual person that's part of the group, but we've seen hints of it. Maybe it'll be a big surprise, something we don't know. The other question is whether or not we'll get to see Morgan next week. I hope we do. And then lastly, I thought, you know, it's kind of nice to see Carl finally have an opposite sex female of his age that he could kind of, you know, soften up to a little bit. And they seem to have a lot in common. They seem to be very much alike. Some people are speculating that she's a spy. I don't see it. If she was spying and doing reconnaissance work, I don't think she would have been running around and frolicking with Carl. I think she would have either have kept quiet and kept moving, or she would have tried to lose him. So that's just my theory, though. But you know what? We'll find out what happens next week. It's going to be a fun episode. And last thing I want to mention, for those of you who watch the channel and also watch Better Call Saul, because I know some of you guys who watch The Walking Dead watch that. Last week I did watch the show, but I fell asleep because I was extremely tired for like 25 minutes, and I just haven't had a chance to see it again to do a proper review. So I will be watching it tomorrow before the new episode, and I'll touch on it a little bit while I do my review for that episode. So, but anyway, guys, that's it for this review. This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. Join the Nation's Facebook page to meet other subscribers or visit E.T.N's Facebook page and Twitter page. Links for all are in the description.